introduce our guest speaker. And as more students join, we'll get some introductions from them as well. So Dr. Tyeshia Burks, we worked together at Bowie State prior to my coming here to Howard in the last 5 years. So glad that we are on screen again together virtually. So Dr. Burks holds a Bachelor of Science in Biology from the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and a PhD in Human Genetics from the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. She was also a postdoctoral fellow at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and she's currently an assistant professor of biology at Bowie State University. I was gonna say right down the road, but it's kind of like right down a couple of roads. It seems like it's right down the road to me. So welcome, Dr. Burks. So the floor is yours, and I look forward to this presentation.
Can you see my screen correctly? Okay. All right, so one little correction, I am now associate. So I was recently promoted and tenured, so that was great. But good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here. Talking about research to students is very near and dear to me, as I do consider myself a mentor first. So I'm hoping that this is informative to you, as well as relevant and a little bit of fun. So she told you a lot of things about me. I am from New Jersey. I'm coming from South Jersey, a small country town. Many people can't associate Jersey with being country, but it is the Garden State after all. When I was the oldest of 5 kids, I'm a first generation college student. So when it came time to applying to college, I had one rule: I didn't want to stay in New Jersey. And that's all I knew. So I applied to schools that were not in New Jersey. And unfortunately, although I got into every school, the scholarship money wasn't there. And because my family, I guess, is the average family, we couldn't afford college, and we had to think, what could we do? So there was a vice principal at my high school who decided that I didn't have to pay for college, and she was going to see to it that it happened. So she drove me in her personal vehicle to the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. And they accept 40 students on a full scholarship in their honors program. I was number 41 because she talked them into allowing me to come to school for free, right? It's who you know. And I graduated 5th in my class, and she decided that that should be good enough to go wherever. So I went to Eastern Shore as an honors student on a full ride, and I majored in biology. While I was there, so when I first went to college, I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. That was the goal, that was the dream, that's where we're headed. But remember, I don't have a roadmap because no one in the family can say, do this and don't do that. So it came time to my junior year when I had to have an honest conversation with myself, like, you know, you haven't started studying for the MCAT right yet. And you know it costs $300 to take it, so you don't have money to waste, right? So are you sure this is what you want to do? And so then I became involved in the MARC program and got exposed to research and decided, you know, that might be for me after all. So I decided I was going to graduate school. I went to Johns Hopkins. When it came time to graduate school, I decided I wanted to go in the city. It was going to be a human genetics program. It had to be in the city because it was a new chapter of life and I wanted a new experience. So I applied in Baltimore, Philly, Richmond, all different cities that I thought I could live in. Hopkins called, I accepted because who says no to Johns Hopkins, right? And then I stayed a little longer. So when I first got there, you know, you have to do a rotation. I thought I wanted to do stem cells and growing organs. But when I got there, I saw that lab. It was like, I don't think this is a good fit. There was a new doctor or medical doctor who was doing aging research, well, muscle research to start. And I was like, okay, I liked him. And as you'll see, if you guys further your education, mentorship is very important. So because we had a rapport, I decided to stay in that lab and change my path a little. And so the first research, it didn't work. So I spent a year on a project that went nowhere. So we had to change gears and we started doing aging research, and that took off. So that didn't take that much time. It didn't make me stay there any longer or anything, and it worked. One thing I want you to take from this is stay fluid. I know when you start college, you think you know where you want to go and what you want to do, but life sometimes is going to throw you a curveball, and it doesn't mean you failed or that's not for you. It's just maybe it's time to redirect. So try to stay fluid. Even though you might have a path, how you get there might be not how you picture getting there. Okay, and that's okay. While I was at Hopkins, I did a teaching fellowship with Towson University. So I'm not sure how your experience has been yet, but as you will see, just because you have a PhD doesn't mean you know how to teach. And I know this is being recorded, so but just because you have that degree doesn't mean you know everything about pedagogy, because teaching in itself is also its own art form. So I learned how to teach at Towson University, through Towson in a partnership, and then I taught there as an adjunct for a couple of years. I mean, I still remember my first class. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience for all of us, but I've never repeated that mistake again. I do consider myself a much better teacher but HBCUs have been near and dear to my heart. So when I saw an opportunity at Bowie State, I applied because, again, here goes those signs and things, right? I saw the job. I doubted myself. I didn't apply. A couple months later, it was still there. So, hey, maybe there's something to this. I applied. I started working at Bowie State about 6 years ago. Absolutely love it. Never thought I would have been a teacher, but not mad at myself for trying new things. I know you guys are in DC, but I am a Cowboys fan. So just keep that in mind. And I also enjoy traveling, and I'm a new mom. Okay, so all these things together make for a very complicated, busy life, but you don't have to worry about all of that yet. So I want this to be as interactive as possible. So do feel free to stop me and ask me questions, and also answer questions that I throw out, because to get the most of it, I truly believe you have to be involved. If I was up here going womp, 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 you will walk away not taking anything away from this. All right, so how would you yourself define research? Anybody? Everybody? When you think of research, what do you think about? You're muted. I thought Willie was going to answer. I see his mouth moving. So what is research? Let's go. Go ahead, Willie.
I'm trying to think how to say this. Just like writing tests, searching for information that could help you solve a problem, or even just look at things differently.
Okay. Yes, I love all of those answers. So trying new things, running tests, looking at things differently. Would you consider yourself a researcher?
Thinking is, I always like to think of research as sometimes even dispelling something that I thought was going to be my hypothesis, or the route I was going to take, or okay, I'm going to write about this, and then and because we do data, we're into data analysis, and then the data tells me, no, it's not what you thought. It's totally turned, and then that's what's the most exciting to me about research, is when what I thought gets totally turned on its head.
But you have to be open to it, right?
Yes, definitely.
You have to be open to it. So it is in itself a way to examine a problem or an observation that comes to mind. And you'll see as we talk that the different types might have different approaches, and they might even consider it different. Like they may look at it different from the perspective, but there are some fundamental similarities between all types of research. Okay. So at this stage, do you consider yourself to be a researcher? Anybody? Ms. Calloway or Dr. Calloway, Professor Calloway, are you a researcher?
I used to be, time, right? I guess maybe mini research, but yeah, I used to be, and in not so much, tech, and totally not even with a tech background. A lot of my research wasn't necessarily technical, but it was pedagogical. So yeah, I would say I still would like to consider myself a researcher, and now delving more into looking at data and how it impacts research and how it shores up your story, your research story.
Any students, do you consider yourself a researcher?
I don't consider myself a researcher, but I want to be.
You said not yet, but you want to be.
Yes.
Okay, so consider this. You come home food that you've been thinking about, leftovers from last night that were just so great that you want them again. Someone ate them, right? What are you going to start to do? You're going to try, go ahead.
Find out like who ate it.
How are you going to find out?
I'm probably gonna think like who would probably eat it, ask people who ate my food.
So would that be thinking like a researcher?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, there's a problem and you're trying to figure out how to solve it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So in some ways you can consider yourself a researcher. You already know how to think scientifically, right? And now we're just going to start putting labels on that process of how you're thinking and what it means to be a researcher. So there are various types of research: quantitative versus qualitative. So what you see and what you can count. Basic research, trying to figure out basic process of how things work, like in the mitochondria and the electron transport chain type of things, versus applied research, which has a more translational. Then there's longitudinal versus cross-sectional, so following a study for lots and lots of years versus coming in at a single time point. Exploratory versus explanatory, so trying to figure out what is it out there that could be, or how do we explain these different things. Descriptive and correlational, primary and secondary. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, okay? So there are so many different broad types of research and then specific types that we're going to address. But we are all familiar with the scientific method, yes? We remember those steps that they drilled into our head in primary school. Is that research? Is that what it looks like if a scientist walks into a lab and says, I'm going to do research today? Are they sitting there saying, wait, what's my question? What's my hypothesis? What do you think? Is this really followed?
I feel like they try to follow it, or they have some general idea of it, but they don't, like once they get into it, they're probably not going to follow this at all.
Right. They have some general ideas. So we began with it, right? So, okay, so there's some question or there's some observation that was made. We're going to do that initial research to figure out how should we go about this, planning our thing. They may or may not have an hypothesis. Okay, so there may be something that they think is going to happen, or it can just be like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to see what happens. They're going to experiment and they're going to go and see what happens. But sometimes we get lost in this loop. Does that experiment work? Do we have to troubleshoot? Did we produce a result that we weren't even looking for? So while we have an idea of how it's going to go, when in real time, it might not be that way, okay? So that's, again, that flexibility. This is traditional research when you think about a scientist in a lab. Then there's data analytics, right? And that looks a little bit different too. So they have whatever they understand about what their problem to be, how they're going to approach it, but now they're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out the correct data to collect, and then how to understand that data, separate that data, and all things data. And then they're going to finish on with their process. This is still their method, even though it varies from what we think about as the traditional scientific method. If you're doing a literature review, so as you guys are thinking about your thesis, if you decide on a literature review, there's a different method that you're going to take. A lot of looking at the literature, trying to figure out what's out there, and you're going to find so many things that interest you that you got to be like, okay, how do I bring this back down so it's something I can actually complete in the time that's allotted to me? And then once you do that, then what are you going to look for in your narrow approach to it and back to the literature? If it's qualitative, right? So now you got to figure out what population do you want to address? Out of that population, what sample size do you need and where are you going to focus your attention? How are you going to address it? Are you going to do a focus group? Are you going to send out a survey? Are you going to have a one-on-one interview, right? How are you going to collect your data in your qualitative research? And then if it's a systematic review, now you're looking at all the papers and you're putting all these different parameters to narrow that down to a specific question in a specific way that you can approach it. So while all these things are considered research, the methods are different. But as you can see, or as I hope you see, there are some similarities that remain. Can we name one or two similarities? They all start with the what?
They all start with a question, something that you're trying to prove or answer or disprove or, yeah.
Right, they all start with a question. So they're all determined by some kind of observations and things that you had. This is going to dictate the purpose of your research, the importance of your research. They all require some kind of literature review. You have to get some background information so that you're not repeating something that already exists, okay? So remember, when you're doing research, you are trying to add some knowledge to the base. So you are trying to, sorry, you're trying to add some new knowledge. You're doing something that's never been done. So research should be novel. They all require data. Okay, data, 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 data. This drives all research. Now, how you get that data, what you do with that data differs, but you have to collect some data. And you'll see that is your bread and butter. So now for you, as you're thinking about your thesis, first start with what interests you. Okay, so what are some topics that you find of interest, something that you can see dedicating your time to? And what kind of research would you like to do? Would it be data science and analytics? Will it be traditional research? Would it be qualitative or quantitative? And who's going to mentor you for this? So remember, that is very important because you're going to spend a lot of time with that person. So you have to make sure those dynamics are good. And once you have your mentor, you'll establish a timeline and a budget if you need one for whatever your research is. So research is definitely within all of your capabilities. And I'm sure that within the honors program, they're going to make sure you have everything you need to be successful in your thesis. And this is in general for no matter what kind of research you're going to do, this is a flow chart that you could follow, okay? And so you'll have your introduction where you have whatever that question is or that observation that it stems from, doing a literature review to see what's out there and where is it lacking so that you can fill in the blanks, determining your methodology. So what kind of research would this be from here? Are you going to have to use a survey? Are you going to have to do a lit search or a systematic review? What's that preliminary data? Do you have to repeat anything to double check that data? And then what's your statement of limitations? Like, all research is limited based on something. So what is your limitation? And then what conclusions can you draw? And then go out and show the world how fantastic you are and what your new discoveries were. Okay. So as you're doing it, always look ahead. So work towards those deliverables. So if you know you have to write that thesis, then start outlining it. Start trying to put time on things so you know when and where you should do things. And then make sure you keep a log. So have that laboratory notebook and you're saying what you did, what you got, if it worked, if it didn't work, if there's something you want to try again. Maybe while you were doing it, you also got a new idea, write that down so you can go back and revisit it, okay? It's very important to document these things. And even if it's online, if it's a digital one, but you have to document what's going on. If you have to take a screenshot or a picture so you can explain what you saw or what went wrong, make sure you're doing that. Because when it's time to prepare that poster or that paper, you're going to want as many things already collected as possible, as opposed to going out and trying to fill in the holes because you didn't keep careful notes. Okay. And then the last-ish question is, why do you think it's called research? What does the word research mean to you or look like to you? What do you see in that word?
Like researching, like
re
think
and
again.
search. What does re mean? Again and again. And if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be researching, right? If we already had all the answers, it wouldn't be a search in that. So, I mean, research is vast. And like Holloway was saying, like, there's so many things we don't know. And that's the beauty of it, finding the unknown. So let your curiosity drive you. Okay, let your curiosity take you places. You're going to have to reel it in sometimes, but let your curiosity drive you. Did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to, I was going to say, that the re in front of search, sometimes within your research, you are researching and re.
Yep. Sometimes it don't work out. You're going to have to pivot, but these are things that you can do. All right, so the next part is very short, and it's just about ethics as you're conducting your research, okay? And so some things to keep in mind as you are doing this, and even past your career at Howard, one thing that was happening is the rise of retractions. So people were taking back the research they published, right? And why? Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think people have to take back this? Why do you think people feel pressure to falsify their results?
I think deadlines, grant money, all kinds of requirements. And yeah, I in my mind, because I'm helping people that are, going up for tenure. So I'm thinking that's what just popped in my mind. Not that they're
pressures and stressors of life. So yeah, you got some grant money. They're expecting you to deliver these results in this amount of time, and it's not working out, and you need it to work out to get some more money or to get that promotion, and the pressure is on. And so unfortunately, some people buckle under it and they put forth something that might not necessarily be accurate. What are the consequences of their actions?
I'm not sure if this is right or not, but they could like lose credibility in the future,
Oh, that's
especially
the number
for
one
like
thing.
something like this. Yeah.
They absolutely will lose credibility. That they may lose their job, but they're absolutely going to lose credibility, and their reputation is going to tank. And that can have dire consequences. So you miss a deadline, you don't get another grant, it's not worth losing the name you've established for yourself. Okay. And another thing I want you to keep in mind is research is subjective. What does it mean to be subjective?
It's kind of like up to interpretation by an individual.
Who's that individual?
Me?
You, the researcher. It is. So research, although people like to think it, research is not done in a vacuum. It's not done by robots. So the people who are conducting that research, they have a life outside of that lab. They have ideals. They have things that's going to affect, first of all, the questions that they ask, right? It should be things that are of interest to them. It's going to affect how they conduct those experiments. It's definitely going to affect how they interpret it. And this is not to say they're doing something wrong. It's just that research is done by people, and we know humans are flawed. This is in our nature, and we have opinions about everything, right? So to double down on that one are just some pretty pictures to end on a high note. Like, what do you see?
I remember seeing this. I saw the lady first, but I did see the old lady after it.
Right. So when you first look at it, you saw the younger lady. You saw the younger lady too?
Yeah.
And then you look a little deeper, you say, oh, this could be an older lady also.
Yeah.
What do you see first?
First, I saw the cat, and then immediately, like before my mind registered cat, I was like, wait. The mouse.
There's the mouse.
Rat, or whatever that is. It's more like a rat. Yes. Very scary rat.
Very scary. You see both of them, Lily?
Yeah, I saw the cat first, and then I was like, something's wrong with the nose or something like that.
What do you see? Or how many do you see?
I saw the tree first, and then all the faces. The
You
two
see
faces
all
on
of
the
the faces?
bottom, and then the other faces in the branches.
How many faces?
Oh, I didn't even see that.
You don't see the faces, or you don't see the tree?
Or like, I saw the faces at the bottom. I didn't even notice the ones at the top.
Mhm.
How many? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm going to use the cursor
Okay.
so that I
Okay.
see 1, 2, 3.
don't see your
There's one
cursor.
looking that way, some glasses. Yep. 4. There's one looking this way, 5. There's one looking down with a mustache, 6. There's another one up here, 8 with glasses looking up. 9, the guy with the mustache here kind of looks like a former president. 10, the long-nosed guy here with a beard. Oh, 11, another one with glasses looking down with a mustache. I might have missed another.
It's okay. But our perspective, what do you see? Couple more, what do you see?
I saw the duck first, but I see the bunny after.
See the bunny.
Yeah.
How many animals?
I see 5, I think. 5.
I see.
Look deeper.
Yeah.
There's 9, potentially 10.
I see 7. Oh no, I see 8. Although one is not an animal, it's a reptile. So maybe a couple are not.
How many
animals.
organisms?
Yes, okay.
All right, you see, what's this?
Oh, I didn't even notice. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
His eye,
Yeah, fish.
his ear,
Oh, it's her. Okay, yeah, I didn't know. Yeah,
his tail,
snake.
snake, and then you see these ones. And I think some people argue this is some kind of insect or something, but it's perspective. Oh, this one, right? Perspective is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And attention to detail when you are performing your research.
That's a good one right there.
Yep, perspective is everything. So research does not guarantee you're going to get what you set out to get. Your results are your results. Record what you get, okay? You're not marked off for not getting what you think you should have got. So your results are your results. Own it. Keep your accurate notes, reflect what you actually did and what you actually got. And always give credit for work that's not yours. So as you're doing your literature reviews, to get your background information, as you're looking in the literature to help explain the results you got, give credit where credit is due. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Anything you want to talk about? Research, life, anything?
Wait, so you said that even if your research doesn't work out, like it won't necessarily count against you?
No. Sometimes there's beauty in getting different results because it's going to take you down a different trail to figure out what that means. So don't be discouraged because you didn't get what you thought you should get. I think one thing you should do as you're doing research is try to keep an open mind. It's better if you if you do the observations and you form a question, skip the hypothesis and start investigating that question and see where it takes you.
So Willie, you said your major was political science, am I correct?
Yes.
Right, so let's say like you looked at a study based on demographics, and let's say either you're making an assumption about the demographics of a particular area or the population of a particular area, or something that you believe, and then you know, let's say this is your question, and you state your question, and then as you're looking at data, and then even sometimes I would posit that time sometimes changes your results. You know, you may start off with a particular set of data, something may happen like a pandemic and totally change your numbers or move the population, or a population decreases, or, you know, whatever. So then what you thought was your hypothesis changes midstream. Right. So, or even changes like maybe right after you submitted your research. So that doesn't negate your, right? It doesn't negate your research. And so sometimes what it then may prompt you to do is to continue, right? So like now I'm going to continue something that I started, continue down this path because now I have new facts, or I want to amend, you know, or add on to, you know, what was before. So yeah, so that just opens that whole world up of, you know, your results can not be what you thought they were going to be, but they can also change based on, you know, the changing environment.
Good question. Any other questions?
Good afternoon, Bria. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. What is your major and where are you from?
I'm majoring in English and I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland.
Good, good. Nice to meet you. So one thing why we are providing these experiences for you is because, as you know, as you move through from freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, your one of your end goals is that senior thesis. So you do have opportunities to interact with your faculty advisors, with your professors to assist you along that route. But we know that you definitely need some supplemental help and some supplemental information to help you. So I know that this presentation really should provide a really good jumping off point, especially if you're a freshman. But if you're later on in your academic career, this should help kind of streamline maybe your thinking or where you are with this. And so I think those. So what we do is we do provide the workshop recordings on our Blackboard for our honors program students so that they can go back and look. So I wanted to make sure you knew that you can go back and look at, because I know some of those flow charts that you showed, Dr. Burks, in my mind, I was like, oh, that would be great. Really, I was thinking, political science, I was like, that would be great for that. If we have any bio majors or pre-med majors, there were really some specific flow charts that looked like it would really be helpful in how they plan their research.
I'll send all slides to you to distribute.
Great, great, thank you. Any other questions of Dr. Burks or even myself about your research journey, wherever you are in that research journey, whether you're starting out, whether you're still kind of thinking about what the topic is going to be, if you're thinking about what your approach is going to be, or anything like that?
Yes, I did have a question about the topic, about what it's going to be. How do you know if it's deep enough, or like, I don't know how to say it, but like, just making sure that it's a good enough topic to bring about.
Like relevant? Is that what you mean? Like, is
yeah, relevant. Yeah, like how do you know if it's relevant enough?
Oh, I thought Dr. Burks was...
I was letting you. I felt like that was specific for his thesis. I'm not sure of the requirements for the thesis.
Oh yeah. So I would say, and don't think that that's a student question. I've asked myself that question as well. And so what I definitely would recommend that you do, please come to the office, because we have theses from all of our alumni of the program, and I think that's like a really valuable resource, and it kind of will give you an idea of what relevancy can look like. I think sometimes we may overthink it and think it has to be so heady and it has to be so super serious, and sometimes it does, but sometimes it's something that's factual, it's something that's informational, it's something that somebody just doesn't know already, or it's something that you found out and you believe it's interesting that you want to share. And so if and that's relevant, that's there's different, I guess, definitions for relevancy, but you can definitely come in and take a look at some of the former theses that we have to kind of see what is acceptable and what has been acceptable as far as topics are concerned.
How long is it?
Oh, I think it's a good number. I want to say it's something like 30 to 40 pages, I think. I think so. But I also think different departments may have, I think the bio department and like maybe possibly psychology may have a different format or a different requirement. Yeah, with the labs and so on. But I think typically like poli-sci and the other departments have maybe a different format requirement.
Do you have an interest now, Ruth?
Mm, I'm not extremely positive about what I want to talk about yet. I'm just trying to like maybe like start now so I can maybe branch out and see what ideas I'm interested in.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But I think you'll have to be mindful though of reeling it in, because you have 4 years to think about it, and there's going to be so many great ideas along the way.
Yeah. And so one of the workshops coming up next Wednesday is the Study Abroad, Study Away workshop, where we're bringing in guest speakers, from the different programs in the university to talk about what they offer, because it all goes into the pot, right? So we want you to be able to intentionally select a study abroad or study away experience that might put you in the mindset of what you might want to work on, right? So your ideas could be way like this. So hopefully by the time end of your sophomore, beginning of your junior year, you kind of have it down here, and that should kind of narrow as you have these different experiences. As you do a study abroad, as you do an internship. We're going to do some trips. These workshops should serve to help do that. People that we bring in and talk to you. And then we're doing an e-portfolio workshop where you can store a lot of your writings, things about your study abroad experiences, projects that you do, so that you have like a repository of all that in one place. And you can fall back on that, but then it also will serve. Let's say you're applying for grad school, you can show your e-portfolio to the person reviewing your application. You can say, look, this is everything I did, as well as a potential employer or even an internship. So you'll be able to kind of like put it all in one place and really kind of see where your mind is starting to go, and maybe an experience that you have speaks to you, even if it's community service, community engagement, and you say, I really want to delve deeper into this particular area.
So that I would say take advantage of all of those opportunities, even ones that don't seem relevant to you, because there's still lessons to be learned, and you might find an interest that you didn't know you had. So if you see different internships available for poli-sci, like go on ones that might be outside of what you think you want to study.
True. Jonathan or Bria, do you have any questions? I know, Bria, you just joined, but the gist of it is about research and about your senior thesis. Do you have any questions?
No.
Bria?
Where is the office located again?
Sure, we're in Lock Hall on the first floor, and it's suite 124, room 124. So when you come in the building, you pass the dean's office, you make a left, and we're down that hallway. And your major again, Bria? I'm sorry.
I'm a sophomore majoring in English.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, we do, like I said, we have a whole library of resources available to you, but we also do have the former theses as well. And like I said, continue to attend these workshops. This one is this is the first time we're doing this in the middle of the day. We typically do them Wednesday evenings at 5:30 to 7. We do post all this on our COAS Honors Program Blackboard site under announcements and also under info sessions. If you are a member of CASHA, the College of Arts and Sciences Honors Association, they also have a group me, and they send out the information that all the programming that we do. It's also posted in a display case out in the hallway. We also email it to you. We try to multi-pronged approach to make sure you're aware of all of the opportunities and experiences. So make sure you check at least 2 of those. And we're about to, our social media, we just hired a social media consultant for the College of Arts and Sciences, so she will start posting some of our stuff as well. Okay. All right, any other questions of Dr. Burks?
Oh, can I get your contact information?
Yes, I will put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And let her value her lunchtime.
I'm so hungry. But thank you all. It was very nice to meet you and to spend this afternoon with you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
You are very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Good luck.